It was while they were walking through the forest, suddenly questioned by Ray, Conway looked up. I met the devils. When you blacked out? I couldn't really tell if it was a dream or real. But it was real. Real in his mind, not his body. You met their true forms? Yeah. Evidence? I don't have any, but they were not shadows. They were definitely in their true forms. There was no mistaking it. At least, they were different from the shadows Conway saw. As Conway spoke with no hesitation behind his words, Ray didn't press him any further. Is there proof? Is there proof it's related to the curse disappearing? I don't know. The markings engraved into the 4 stones looked just like the markings that appeared on his body. The 4 colored snakes and the devils were probably related as well. He felt like it all tied together somehow, but he couldn't figure it out. It just made him frustrated. He didn't know why he was being targeted. Verge had called Conway prey. He didn't understand that either. He didn't understand anything. While he sharpened his claws to distract his mind, the green meandering scenery was broken. It was that village. And they soon arrived at the desolate village where the corpse cats had walked. His heart beat like a drum for no particular reason at that thought. Naturally, there was no one in the village. He cast his eyes down at the loneliness. No corpses, no traces of blood. The village was deserted, as if no one had lived here for a long time. He remembered the village cats who emerged in his dream. Even though the curse was broken, it was fact that the cats had died because of him. Although they'd been controlled by Leek's hand, Conway had gotten them involved. Are we even sure there were actual cats there? Because they just all disappeared like an illusion after they killed them. Truly, they didn't need to have died. The cats of this village should have lived their days in peace. So many lives had been extinguished because of him. He was now keenly aware of that horror. His heart ached as if it might burst. There's no time to wallow in sentimentality. Walking through the village, Ray spoke without even turning around. These are all our fates. He knew that this would be the outcome. Even so, Conway walked on, putting one hand up to control his aching heart. His anger towards Leeks wasn't enough to replace his guilty conscience. By the time they returned to Ransom, the moon of light had ascended high overhead. The streets were as crowded as ever, and if Conway got lost, he'd be swallowed up in the crowds. Although not much time had passed since they left the town, it felt like he'd been gone for an awfully long time. Conway suddenly felt tired. Let's go see Tokeno and crash at his place. Because Asato appeared to have trouble dealing with the confusion of the town, he was likely crossing the neighborhood over the rooftops. He's fucking Batman. Treading down the street, Conway noticed something unusual about the atmosphere. Strange clothes and masks were displayed in the stalls of the vendors, and he saw many uncommon confections and elaborate foods. It's a holiday. Everywhere he looked, flags with the Ransom crest were displayed on the doors and in the windows. However, because there were also decorations with dark sigils, the colors dimmed, and it wasn't exactly cheerful. Troubadours constantly played music. Just as expected of Anto. Anto? Sure. Anto? It's a Sisson Winter Festival, celebrated in Ransom. The winter's compared to a demon, so this is like a ritual to ward it off. That's right, Bardo had mentioned there was a festival coming up, I think. It certainly was more like a ritual than a festival. If this was Sis's greatest festival, there should be a lot of sightseers visiting from other towns and villages. In that case... Won't all of the inns be occupied? We'll go back to the inn from before. So... That inn owes you, right? Speaking of that, Conway remembered he'd taken on the role of the receptionist until the real replacement came. Or rather, that was the role imposed on him. Bardo said he could always come by again. He hadn't intended to rely on that offer, but now he had no choice. Let's ask him. Although he didn't feel like it, Conway turned to head to Bardo's inn with Ray. Wading through the waves of cats, they finally managed to reach the inn. Even if Hisato wasn't there, Conway felt so tired that he just went right in through the door. Unlike before, sounds of quiet chatting now resounded through the waiting room. There appeared to be several cats who were guests here now. When he looked to the reception desk, there was a striped cat running a pen along paper, tilting his head and frowning. It was Bardo. Well, shucks. Excuse me. Give me a sec, okay? Although he answered, Bardo held up one hand to stop Conway without lifting his face. He seemed to be lost in thought. This is like that? And then... Huh? Stop. No point in worrying about these things. Leaving the pen alone, Bardo muttered incoherently while scratching his head with one hand. This is why I hate the festival times. There are way too many visitors. My brain's all in a twist. Let's hurry and, Bardo finally noticed Conway standing before the counter. Well look who it is. You're the one I asked for that favor a while back. You're, Kunugi? Conway. That's right. Sorry about the other day. Well, what do you need today? You've come to stay again? What else would you come to an inn for? Conway wondered. When he nodded, Bardo grinned proudly for some reason. I told you, festival time is serious stuff. Even though Ransom is Sis's biggest town, there aren't many inns. Well, are you gonna stay here? If there's a vacant room, I'd like to stay here, yes. We just had a cancellation a little while ago. Are you by yourself? Any companions? There's 3 of us. One who isn't here right now, myself, and... He turned in Ray's direction and was startled. Ray bared his fangs and fluffed out his already fluffy tail. I don't know why this is so funny. It just... The cats surrounding him moved away from the bloodthirst emanating from him. We're gonna have a cat fight. His usually calm blue eye had drawn to a slit, filled with a ferocious light. Conway had never seen him like this before. Hey! Why are you here? Amidst the growling was a low voice unmistakably directed at Bardo. Conway looked to Bardo. Not looking particularly surprised, Bardo crossed his arms warily and watched Ray. This posture was surprising to Conway as well. Why, you ask? Because this is my inn. It'd be pretty odd if I wasn't here. Long time no see, by the way, kitty cat. Shut the fuck up! You came here with Conway. What a small world. Did the two know each other? Konaway stared at the two in blank amazement. Bardo rested his elbows on the counter and grinned uncomfortably. Still haven't gotten over that bad habit, I see. Just then, white light flashed. Next came the heavy sounds of a sharp wind and a gust of air. Not knowing what had happened, Konaway followed the flow of that wind with his gaze. A dagger was stuck in the counter. Its tip was right before Bardo's eyes as he rested his elbows on the counter. Bardo didn't waver, casting Ray an upward glance. Don't act out. You'll bother my other guests. Hey, we're going. Appearing to be holding back his anger, Ray spoke roughly. Still resting against the counter, Bardo flicked the dagger with a finger. The other inns are all full. No rooming, not even a place to eat. If you don't want to see my face that badly, can't you just pass by the reception desk, baka? Don't get so mad. Brash cats die young. Oh, that's where Ray got the phrase. They've been together before. Oh. Mentor and mentee, boyfriend and boyfriendo, who knows? Brash cats die young? These exact same words had come from Ray before as well. Just what kind of relationship did these two have? That's what I want to know. Konaway looked up at Ray's face. Calm down a bit. Jeez. What? Your circumstances don't matter. Right now there aren't any other inns with empty rooms, right? What do you plan to do? Sleep outside? Jeez. There's us. I'm getting my favor returned, so I'm staying here. If you want to go somewhere else, you can go by yourself. Ray glared at Konaway, a dim flame of resentment running between them. Was he opposed? It was as he said. Konaway pursed his lips and glared straight back at Ray. Honestly, the force was enough to make him want to flinch, but he pushed back his timidity. In fact, he didn't particularly mind sleeping outside, in the grass or on the ground, wherever was fine as long as he could rest. But right now, he wanted to show this cat that he couldn't always just get whatever he wanted. The Sangha supported the Toga until the bitter end, but not as the Toga's slave. For a while, the standoff continued. The air was so tense that it frightened guests out of the inn. Only Bardo would occasionally flick the dagger stuck in the counter, wrapping it with his claws. Sweat formed in Konaway's clenched fist. At times like this, the power of Ray's eye was truly intense. He kept a sharp gaze on him, feeling like he'd stuck his tail in a fire. Finally, Ray blew a sigh and lowered his eyelid. It seemed like they'd regained their composure after glaring at one another. Konaway thought. He and Ray weren't friends. At most, they were together for each other's interests. It wouldn't be so odd even if they separated. Whatever. Have it your way. So would they finally part ways here? But the very next moment, Konaway opened his eyes wide. He thought Ray was going to leave, but Ray was heading up to the second floor. Huh. Following Ray in a hurry, Konaway looked over his shoulder to the counter. Yeah, make yourselves comfortable, Bardo told him. He raised one hand lightly while the others rested on the while the other rested on the counter. Feeling surprised at his attitude, which lacked any clear motives, Konaway turned to the stairs. Hey, you forgot this. Bardo threw something at him. The knife. Konaway, completely distracted by Ray, tried to reflexively catch what was thrown at him, but he immediately bristled up and jumped back. Konaway heard a dull sound. Bardo gave him an easygoing smile. He'd thrown Ray's dagger. Until a few moments ago it had been stuck in the counter, and now it pierced the floor where Konaway had just been standing. He heard a metallic sound, and when he looked, he saw 2 keys hooked on the crossguard. They were probably their room keys. But that wasn't the issue right now. All of Konaway's blood drained to his feet. You! When Konaway instinctively growled, Bardo laughed and fluttered one hand in a wave. I knew you'd evade it for sure. Where do you get that kind of trust, mister? Just a feeling. You didn't think of any other possibilities? If you don't think positively, life's no fun. If something bad happens, then you know shit happens. He didn't know what happened in their past, but this guy could truly anger Ray. When Konaway looked closer, Bardo had a strong build from working as the innkeeper. Past his indignation, he also felt an appalling sense of weakness, and Konaway drew Ray's dagger and dragged his feet upstairs. Ah, right. There's 3 of you, yeah? Your room's the one in the back to the far right. I only have 2 rooms available right now, so just bear with it until I get another. Bardo's voice sounded from behind him. The other guests turned down their ears and watched the whole event from a distance, shaking with fright. When he reached the 2nd floor, Ray stood in the hallway. He still looked disgruntled, but he seemed to have come to his senses now. Here, it's yours. Konaway presented the dagger, and Ray snatched it in silence and sheathed it. Well... He opened his mouth and then closed it again. Ray turned with a dubious face. There were many things Konaway wanted to ask, but for some reason he had trouble saying them. What? Why didn't you just leave? Don't you hate the innkeeper? To be honest, I still want to leave. But since you're here, I don't have a choice. Ray sighed and crossed his arms, his tail swaying. You're a valuable Sangha. If I left now and something happened, it would be troublesome. A valuable Sangha. That's right. But for some reason, his chest felt pained. Not knowing how to respond, Konaway cast his eyes down and searched for the right words. Ray was silent as well. Konaway really wanted to ask what kind of relationship Ray had with Bardo, but it just wasn't the right time. A little irritated, he opened his mouth as if trying to lighten the mood. Our rooms are the 2 in the back, on the right. Which one? At this moment, Konaway heard knocking on the window. Hi, Batman. Surprised, he looked back. Straight ahead at the end of the hallway, outside the large window, he saw the upside-down torso of a black cat. Asato? Is that guy a lizard or something? Ray muttered and frowned. When Konaway opened the window, Asato nimbly slipped inside. Fresh air flowed in as well, grazing the tip of his nose. Could you get a room? Blah blah blah. Could you get a room? That's what I was about to say. It's the 2 rooms back there. Which one do you want? I'm fine with Konaway. Saying this abruptly, Asato glared at Ray. Ray returned a cold gaze his way. The slave intends to go into the same room as his owner. You hurt Konaway, so I won't let you near him. You're not the one to decide that. And so it began. It seemed like these two were determined to always bicker face to face, even with Konaway around. He should probably have entered as a mediator, but after what happened between Bardo and Ray earlier, Konaway was halfway fed up already. Yes, make those two share a room together, and you go in one by yourself. That'd be perfect. He sighed and opened his mouth. It's not up to you, Urasato, it's up to me. Something like this shouldn't even require a second thought. At Ray's words... What? Ray's words? What? Hold on. Come on. Yeah, okay. It was Konaway speaking. At Ray's words, Konaway felt the tip of his ears twitch, and by his words he meant the, like, slave and master joke. In other words, he was saying that it was only natural that they would share a room. How self-important could this cat get? I'm confused. Did I accidentally skip something? You're not the one to decide that. Slave intends to go to the same room as the master. You hurt Konaway. Seemed like... I guess that could be like... a Ray line, and maybe that's the one it's referring to. Because I read it as Konaway. How self-important could this cat get? Whatever the reason, he could downright assume that he was in no mood to argue. I'm staying in the same room as Asato. Ray scowled and gave Konaway a look as if he just said something stupid. You're a Senga. Then does that mean I have to always go with you? My sharing a room with someone else does not mean anything, he retorted in agitation. If he became emotional, he'd end up on the same level as these bickering cats. Even though Konaway knew this well, his ignited irritation could not quite be extinguished. Konaway said it. He has the right to decide. Shut up! You're the one whining over this! I'm just speaking my mind. You decide things while ignoring others. I've decided, so that's it, okay? Unable to stand this argument that seemed to go on without end, Konaway gave a curt shout. Anyway, I've already decided, so this conversation is over. Here's your key. Konaway held out one of the keys, and Ray snatched it with a look of disgust and entered his own room. Watching the door slam, Konaway exhaled softly. Konaway. Turning when called, Konaway saw Asato looking at him with an apologetic face. What is it? There's no need to make a face like that. But I caused you trouble. It's just that whenever I talk to that guy, I don't like him. It looked like he was contemplating why he was so annoyed. Seeing Asato with his head lowered and ears drooping, his irritated feelings calmed down a little. There was no harm meant, not from Asato, and probably not from Ray either. Ray's not a bad cat either, but nothing can be done about that attitude. You have to smash him. Huh? The meaning of his words unclear, Konaway was startled. Did he dislike Ray that much? However, Asato kept talking with a very serious face. That guy is strong, and that's why his head and heart are solid like a stone. You have to smash through him. Not knowing how to react to that, Konaway stared at Asato with his mouth wide open. Asato may certainly be a poor speaker, but on the other hand, there were times like these when he perceived things with a strange sense. Since he spoke with so few words, anyone listening could not possibly comprehend his explanations. Anyway, let's just head into the room for now. Alright. With a nod, Asato happily raised his tail. Thinking he was like a completely different cat now, Konoe opened the door to the room and stepped inside. The room had the same structure and interior decoration as the room he'd stayed in before. All of them likely looked the same. At dusk, Konoe ventured out to the bustling streets alone. He reached out to the other two as well, but Rei was caring for his sword and Asato told him he disliked crowds, so he had to go by himself. Konoe didn't really like the boisterous noise very much either, actually. Even though they were celebrations in Kaoru, they were really small. However, since Konoe had yet to see such a merry festival, he couldn't stifle his curiosity towards the lively city. Leaving the inn, Konoe paused for a second. Looking over his surroundings, he noticed he'd subconsciously been mindful of the other cat's gazes. The markings had already disappeared. Both his tail and ears had returned to their original color. Before, he would look strange, but now Konoe just looked normal. There was nothing to worry about. Thinking about it, for some reason he felt that through this haze, he should have seen this in a positive light. With or without the curse markings, he was still the same. Himself. Konoe shook his head to clear his thoughts. It was an unusual sentiment, and he felt that there was no use for it. The dusky town was crowded with both too many cats and wares, but he was able to watch the hustle and bustle. The masks and costumes in the stores basked in orange light, were beautiful. The music from the festival colored the unreal atmosphere of the city. Walking as closely to the edge of the road as he could, he surveyed his surroundings. Cats danced to the music of a band, and vendors called out with enthusiastic voices from their storefronts. Starting tomorrow, the festival was said to last for 3 days. While the cats of the town were doing business, Konoe could see everyone was letting their emotions show for the day. It seemed like they looked forward to this. Or at least today, Konoe wanted to be part of this liveliness. He tried to lose himself in the atmosphere too. Still, nothing was over yet. His own presence may have posed a risk to the cats of Ransom, but just for now. He stopped and slowly closed his eyes. The cats' voices, singing voices. Music, noise, cheers, chatter, and footsteps. The grandeur, the air, and he was a part of it all. When he opened his eyes, Konoe exhaled gently and began to walk. Coming to the city, his goal was to go see Tokeno. Konoe was really concerned about him and could only wonder if he was safe. As Konoe went with the flow of cats, he barely managed to reach the back alley, relying solely on his memories to find his way. Eventually, he was able to see Tokeno's house. The shop was open today. Surrounded by various tools, it seemed more like a shed than a shop. They'd probably replenished with stocks obtained from all over. Between the stacks of pots and wooden boxes, A waving tail peeped out. Gradually, a cat appeared from behind the wares. It was Tokuno, whose arms were bogged down with packages. He put the bags on the floor with a thud, then sighed and looked up, dusting off his hands. He then noticed Konaway immediately, and his eyes became round with surprise. "Aw, Konaway?" Tokuno rushed out from the store. His whole face turned upwards with a broad smile. "You've returned already? I thought your journey would be much longer." "I arrived earlier than you thought? You must think I'm incredibly slow then." "I'm just glad you're safe. Welcome back, Konaway." Tokuno purred and nudged his nose to Konaway's shoulder. His voice was always a kind, gentle one, and Konaway sighed in relief. Konaway also gently nudged his nose to Tokuno's shoulder in return. "Did anything happen?" "Not really, although I was thinking for a little bit. Did you dye your tail?" Startled, Tokuno pointed at Konaway's tail with his finger. Konaway silently shook his head. "Huh? That means..." When Konaway peeled back the gauntlet on his arm to let Tokuno see, Tokuno blinked several times in surprise. "The marks, they've disappeared. Konaway, have they really?" "Yeah, probably." "That's great." Tokuno swished his tail excitedly, his lips spreading into a broad smile as he laughed from the bottom of his heart. It was Konaway's turn to be wide-eyed when he saw this. Why was Tokuno so happy for him? 'Cause he's your friend, you dummy. It wasn't like this was his problem. As if he were reading Konaway's thoughts, Tokuno shrugged his shoulders bashfully. "It doesn't hurt anymore, right?" "Yeah." "My important friend has just been released from pain and suffering. I'm happy. I think this is really great." "Really? I see." "Yep." Tokuno expressing his feelings so honestly made Konaway feel faint warmth in the depths of his chest. As he lowered his face so that his embarrassment couldn't be seen, a subtle smile formed on Konaway's lips. "I want to have a better celebration for you here, but my father's out peddling during the festival, so I have to man the store, okay? I'm sorry." Seeing Tokuno lower his ears, Konaway shook his head. Didn't you say this is your first time attending a festival in Ranson?" "That's right." "The festival occurs twice, once in the winter and spring. The winter festival isn't as showy and bright as the spring festival, but it's still different and fun." "Yeah." "Oh yeah, take this." Tokuno looked over at the jar behind him and removed something. In his outstretched palm, there were 3 dried cumes. "At least I can give you these to celebrate with." "But aren't you selling these?" "Go ahead." Taking a hold of Konaway's hand, Tokuno handed him the cumes. One by one, he closed Konaway's fingers around them so he held on tight. Tokuno looked at him with a mischievous face and laughing eyes. "If you eat all of them, you'll get huge." "Baka." After that, they looked at each other and suppressed their laughter. Truly at this moment, this one time only, Konaway felt like he'd gone back to the peaceful days he'd spent in Kaoru. After a while, Konaway told Tokuno that he would stop by every so often, and about where he was staying for the time being. Konaway bade him farewell, and returned to the inn. The moon of light was about to set, and night was about to begin.